Hey there, John Morris here with JohnMorrisOnline.com, and welcome to another episode of The John Morris Show. And in this episode, I'm going to be showing you how to create some simple CSS buttons that are extensible. And in doing so, I'm also going to show you the way in which Bootstrap does it. So if you've ever wanted to know how to create some simple extensible CSS buttons, or you'd like to go inside or behind the scenes of Bootstrap and dig a little more into the inner workings of how it's all put together, then you'll want to stay tuned for this episode. This episode is sponsored by the Complete Web Developers course taught by Rob Percival on Udemy.com. Now, what I love about this course is first how comprehensive it is. It's 235 lectures on HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, Bootstrap, WordPress, PHP, MySQL, APIs, and mobile apps. I mean, it's ridiculous. Second, I love how good of a teacher Rob is. As a former school teacher, Rob knows how to explain complex concepts in ways anyone can understand. And of course, the cool thing is I talked Rob into giving my audience an 85% discount on the course. So check the description of this video for a special link that contains a coupon code good for 85% off of the Complete Web Developers course by Rob Percival. Click that link and you'll be all set for the discount. Now, on to the episode. All right, so let's start off by looking at what we have on the front end. So to start, we have a regular submit button that hasn't been styled at all. And you've probably seen this before. This is what they generally look like. Then we have what I would call our default styling. So we're going to create a default style so that we can style all of our anchor tags and our submit buttons and so forth using this default style. And then below that, we're going to build on top of that with some different sizes and colors. And I'm going to show you how you can extend that to create even more colors and sizes if you choose for your particular project. All right, so we have this is a regular size button here. You'll see here we have a little bit smaller one, and here we have a large button. Down here we have the same sizes, but now we have it in this green color. All right, so that's the setup. So let's go ahead and then dive over into the code and show you how to do this. So the first thing that we have here is we have our standard kind of page setup with our HTML tag, our head tag, and our body tag. And I've put the styling inside of style tags in the head for now, just so that this can be all contained in one file and it's a little bit easier for you to download and use for yourself. But you obviously would want to put this in some sort of CSS file that's along with your particular project. So this has all the styles, and then down here is where we actually create the buttons. So let's take a quick look at the HTML real first. So first off, you can see I'm creating a button here, and in this one I'm not adding any classes to it. So this is our standard submit button. Then down here, right below that, I'm creating a button, but now I'm adding a class of this BTN, which is our kind of our default style for our buttons. And that's the only thing I'm adding to this one. Here I have the button, and then I have button-small. So this is the class that helps create the small button. Then I have button and then BTN-LG for button large. So this creates the large button. And then down here you can see I'm adding multiple classes. So I have the standard size BTN with BTN success. This creates the green look. Then I have button, button-success, and button-small. So this is a small green button. And then I have button, button-success, and button-large. So this is a large green button. All right, so the idea here is that you create a default class that does the basic styling like the margin, the padding, the border, a default font size, all of the common things that are going to apply to every button so that you have the same kind of base foundation for all of the buttons you're creating, and you don't have to constantly rewrite that code for every different size and every different color. And then you use what I would call modifier classes to build on top of that default style. So the modifiers are size, their color. They could be any number of things that where you would want to style all of your buttons in a very specific way, but be able to kind of mix and match. And so size is one way to do that. Color would be one way that you do that. Maybe you'd want to change the font style or the font family across buttons and be able to have buttons with different fonts or whatever creative things that you can come up with. So that's the part that makes this whole thing extensible. So let's dive into how to do this. So we start off with our default class here, which is .btn. And we're just doing some simple things. So display inline block so that it'll have if you apply it to an anchor tag, it'll display as a block element, but it can still display inline. We want to get rid of the border because the border is really ugly if you leave it on there. So I picked a padding of 6 pixels and 12 pixels, so 6 on the top and bottom and 12 on the left and right. This is something you could play with, maybe like a little bit more padding on your default style, and then your other sizes add even more to it. So that's something you could play with. The margin bottom is 0, so we don't want any margin below it. We're setting the standard font size to 14 pixels. Again, that's something that maybe you could play with. The font weight normal, the text align center, and then we have the cursor pointer so that if it's applied to an element that doesn't naturally have a cursor to it, it'll go ahead and create that when you hover over it. And then we're giving a border radius of 4 pixels, so that's giving the rounded corners on the button. So that's kind of our basic kind of styling. This is going to be the default stuff that's going to apply to everything. And you'll notice because we're doing this on this class and then we're adding this class to every button, from that point forward, then all we have to do for each kind of modifier that we have here is add just the things that we want to modify. So for example, in btn-lg, we're changing the padding to 10 pixels and 16 pixels. We're changing the font size to 18 pixels, and we're changing the border radius to 6 pixels. So it makes everything just a little bit bigger, and that makes sense for our button large here. And again, we only have to edit these 3 things because we're applying all these other styles to everything. So it keeps you from reusing a lot of code. Next down here, we have btn-small. So in here, we're changing the padding to 5 pixels, 10 pixels, the font size to 12 pixels, and the border radius to 3 pixels. So we're just making everything just a little bit smaller, which again makes sense. Here under btn-success, we've changed the color to white because that's what's going to look better on our green button. We've changed the background color to this kind of greenish color and the border color to a kind of greenish color as well. Again, these are things that you could play with. Maybe you don't like that color of green. Maybe you want a little bit different color of green. And so for your btn-success button, you could play with these colors until that green is exactly how you like it. As a matter of fact, if you're working with Bootstrap and you've downloaded default Bootstrap and you don't like the colors that come default with Bootstrap, this is one of the things that I recommend you do is in your own CSS file, instead of creating new buttons with a name like, for example, btn-yellow or btn-red, you actually modify the existing ones that are there. So you would write your own btn-success declaration in your CSS file that would override the default Bootstrap. All right, then down here we're just doing the hover effects. So on hover, then we have the color, the background color, and the border color that we're all changing. So the same things that we changed up here, we're changing down here. Right, so it's really pretty straightforward. You start off with a base class to do all of kind of the default sizing and spacing and the default kind of gray color to make it look better than a button that's unstyled. Then you add modifiers for size, color, and any other things that you would like to add. You of course can add more sizes. You could definitely add more colors. You could add things that aren't size or color and get really creative with this and create something that is extensible for your application. So again, if we come back over here, then this is what we end up with. Now, if you want to get access to this source code, then the way to do that is to head on over to johnmorrisonline.com/resources, or if you're on my website, you can simply click the resources tab right up here, and that will take you to my web developer resources page. Now, I have all kinds of web developer resources on here, from classes to the different tools that I use. But if you scroll down to the bottom here, then you'll see a section called Code Snippets, and you'll see PHP Code Snippets, WordPress Code Snippets, and Genesis Code Snippets. So you can go ahead and click on through to the code snippets that apply for the video you're watching, and you'll be able to get access to that code snippet. Now, if we click here, for example, on PHP Code Snippets, then we will be taken to that page and you'll see all of the different code snippets here. And you can click through and you'll get the video, you'll get the description, and you'll get the code snippet as well. So again, head on over to johnmorrisonline.com/resources. Head on down to the code snippets section to get access to the snippet that you're after. Of course, while you're here, you might as well look around and see some of the other developer tools and courses that I have available here that are going to help you down your path of becoming a web developer. And since I'm constantly adding to this page, then you might as well bookmark this page and check back often so you can see all of the things that I've added and get access to all of the tools and snippets and courses and things that I'm using throughout my career. All right, that'll do it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.